Okay, I think we get started. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making time to attend our first edition of Sky Connect for the year 2025, taking place virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my greatest pleasure to wish all of us a happy new year, though belated. And I wish that all that you wish for yourselves this year come to pass. May God continue to guide our industry and let us continue to grow from strength to strength, being able to implement all the programs and policies that will see African aviation take its rightful place. Ladies and gentlemen, in our today's Sky Connect dialogue, my guest is no other than the Secretary General of the Airports Council International Africa region, Mr. Ali Tounsi. And in our discussion today, we would put as focus, specific focus on infrastructure development within the aviation space. In particular, infrastructure development at the airports and how this is facilitating air transport and connectivity on the continent, and where there are deficiencies, what is being done about it, how we're going to get around it, what the role of the respective stakeholders are, and moving forward as we anticipate further growth in air transport connectivity. What are we going to do to ensure that we have the necessary infrastructure? So all of these and more are what my guest, Mr. Ali Tounsi, and myself will try to unpack for you within the next 1 hour. Ladies and gentlemen, but as in previous cases, please note you are invited to participate in the discussions. So if you have any questions or comments, please use our Q&A tab or the chat box to register your question or comments, and time permitting, at the appropriate time, I would review them together with my guest. So sit back, relax, and pay keen attention to the discussions as we get it started. So once again, welcome to my guest, Mr. Ali Tounsi. First of all, I would want you to probably just briefly introduce yourself and tell us something small about ACI Africa, just for the sake of some of our audience who might not know you or ACI Africa. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Rafael. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year for you and for all the participants of this Sky Connect. So also thank you for this opportunity to share together thoughts and idea and how to make our aviation more sure and more sustainable. So just to introduce myself, as you know, I am Ali Tounsi, the Secretary General of ACI Africa now for 15 years about, but before being Secretary General, I worked for 20 years in Tunisian Airport Authority as Chief of Strategic Development, Operating Director, and so on. So I go through all this position in this administration. So we can resume about 35 years of aviation and air transport and airports in Africa. So this is very brief.
Thank you so much. So you are an industry man, starting from Tunis with extensive experience over 15 years within ACI Africa. What would you say are the performance trends of this industry, with particular reference to traffic within our airports across Africa?
Okay, so just to be brief, I have some numbers to tell. So after the crisis and the COVID, what is good that most of Africa is recovering. So for 2024, or last year, African traffic was about 240 million passengers, reflecting an 11% progress, which confirmed the post-pandemic sustainable recovery of air traffic. About cargo, the growth is about 7%, driven by the dynamic change in trade, facilitated mainly by the AFCFT project from the African Union and the expansion of the e-commerce and perishable export. So this is what we can say about the recovery. But this, in fact, is led by a lot of good development, mainly the tourism rebound, mainly in some countries like Egypt, Morocco, Kenya, and South Africa, what saw significant increase in the international and regional tourism arrival, reinforced by the facilitated travel restriction. Also, the demand of travel is recovering. A lot of people restart traveling again, which is a good sign of the recovery. And also, one very important thing is the growth of the African Middle East class. And this class is the main traveler all over the world. So this class is progressing in Africa, which is a good sign. One other very important thing is the new routes and frequency created by some airlines, including Ethiopian Airlines, Kenya Airways, and Air Peace. That's introduced new routes and increased flight frequency that to meet demand. Also, one very interesting thing is the emergence of low-cost carriers like Fly Safair and Airlink, that contributes significantly to domestic and regional passenger growth by offering a lot of options. So this is what we can say about the recovery and after the COVID crisis, which is a good sign. But this is for me, is not enough because a lot of challenges remain. And as we discussed in a lot of meetings and conferences, that's the challenges is there, and I hope that they can be removed, but they are there. And mainly the recovery is slow, remain very slow in certain region and in certain countries. So if we can resume in 4 or 5 points, Central Africa region, like country like Chad, Central Africa Republic, Gabon, Gabon, Guinea Equatorial, and Congo are lagging behind due to limited infrastructure and high cost of the operation of operating. For the South Africa area or region, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia also are slow to implement due to small market size in these countries. For Northern Africa, Libya and Sudan also remain lagging behind due to political conflict. Western Africa, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Sierra Leone also are slow due to post-conflict recovery. And generally, infrastructure capacity constrained, particularly in a country like Nigeria, in Lagos, congestion and aging facility. Also in Cairo, capacity issue because the growth is huge, and this rapid growth is faster than the development of the infrastructure. Also in Johannesburg, limited infrastructure, fuel storage, also limited the efficiency of the operation. So this is just to summarize about what's after COVID.
That's a very good overview of the industry's performance and the challenges as far as infrastructure is concerned. Thank you for that. But allow me to just go a bit further. So the infrastructure deficit varies from country to country and from market to market, and oftentimes also has a bearing on the traffic volumes and traffic performance. Now, going forward, how do we ensure that we are able to match the infrastructure with the demand? Which comes first?
In fact, this is a very typical, we said, school case. So mainly or generally, we develop infrastructure when we see demand. So generally, we should make study of the progress of the traffic in the next 5, 10, or 20 years. And this comes in the something called master plan. So when we create our master plan, we know from now to 20 years, the future 20 years, what's the steps to go and when we should do it, and just to follow the traffic, and we should know when we start building the infrastructure.
If I may, on that point of master plan, do we have one for Africa, a master plan of airport development that needs to be updated?
Yes, yes. In fact, every airport should have a master plan from the first design to the full capacity. We have to follow the master plan. In fact, before you build your airport, you should know the limit, the maximum capacity of your airports. Suppose that in Ghana we want to create an airport. First, to book the land, we should know to which capacity this airport should be. For example, now we should, for example, plan for 30 million passengers. You know that now you handle 2 or 3 million, but you know, in 70, because an airport is not for 5 or 10 years. An airport can be for 100 years. So for this 100 year, you should know the maximum capacity of the land and the steps to follow. And this is mandatory. But the problem is in Africa, very few airports only do that. And in some cases, they didn't respect this master plan. And that's why most of the airports are moving now, because they are in the city center, because when they make the master plan, this airport was far from the city center. But now with the development of cities and expansion, the airport become in the city center. And we didn't respect the master planning. And in the end, we lose this airport to move it in the other side. You understand? So master planning is mandatory, and we should follow all the steps, just to respect all the steps, and also to save money. Otherwise, an airport is a huge investment. And if we move it, we lose all this investment. And in a developed country, we never close an airport. We move
If I may again interject, you know, you might have a master plan, and I'm sure these airports do, but if you look at the two initiatives that Africa is currently trying to roll out, and they have a significant potential to increase traffic and cargo volumes, that is the single African air transport market and the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Now, if we were to look at these two programs, and if they were to be implemented efficiently and working well, the traffic volumes obviously might overshoot current capacity in many airports. You don't agree?
Yes, yes. Theoretically, yes. Practically, not sure, just to be frank. In fact, all these tools are very good to develop traffic. But for me, personally, the development of traffic should come from the government itself. So what I mean, in fact, the open skies and the AFC, all this economics, and so it's a tool to grow traffic. But if there is no attraction of the destination, for example, if I give you a free ticket and the free accommodation to go to Syria now or to Afghanistan, You said, no, I cannot because I'm scared of myself. And also, I give you a free ticket and free accommodation in a country where there is nothing, no tourism, no leisure, no business. What to do there? So what's mean that all these tools, the open sky and the free trade, are very good tools. But if there is no attraction of the destination, what means what to do in this country, why to fly to this country, there are no means and no utility of these. So they are very good tools, but if there is no attraction of the destination, there is nothing. So for me, these are good tools, but it should be the tools that be used by the government to create attraction to the destination, to build tourism and the leisure infrastructure, and to encourage investment. And with that, you can create traffic.
Yeah, but you know, there's this case which is used in business schools around the world, which typifies what you are saying. In fact, the case says that two group of research teams were sent to a remote location to go and do a market study about shoes. And the first group went there and they realized nobody was wearing shoes. So they came back concluding there's no market there, no need to go in there because there is no market for shoes. Nobody wears shoes there.
Yeah.
Then they sent in the second team, and the second team went in and then came up and said, we went into this market, no one is wearing shoes. In our estimation, this is a virgin market and great potential. All we just need to do is to come up with the right type of shoes that fit the economic status of the people, and we would have a huge business. So again, in the context you're talking about, whether there's tourism or there's no tourism or trade, probably, if you get in there, you might be able to find out that, okay, there's this aspect that nobody has looked at, and there's that aspect that nobody has looked at. But until you go in there, you never know.
No, in fact, you're right. You're right. Just to make the same for air traffic. In fact, if a country or a government create facilitation or facility and regulation to attract investment, for example, very flexible taxes and so on. So they create by itself, they create the opportunity to attract business. This is what you said. So it's the same. So when the government create the tools, create the opportunity, people will come. In fact, this is how the economy is working. You create, you create the market, you create the needs by facilitating and you're offering a lot of facilities.
So now in the year 2025, if you were to look at it briefly, what would you say should be the priority for Africa?
In fact, there is a lot of opportunities for the future in Africa, a lot. In fact, we should profit from the recovery of the pandemics, and maybe next year, if everything goes well, we will wait for 260 million passengers in Africa, which is a big growth. But compared to the world, it's still 2 or 3%, which is very low compared to the dimension of Africa, which is huge, but it's very small compared to the world. Also, we should note, for me, emerging hubs. For example, Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya. If these hubs developed well, that will attract a lot. In fact, this point about hubs is very, very important. Hubs, in fact, it's a transit area. So people didn't get inside Ethiopia, but it's one of the biggest hubs. So they use the country just to transit. It generates a lot of traffic, but no one goes to Addis Ababa. So mainly 3 or 5% of the traffic goes inside the country, but most of the other is just crossing. And this is a good opportunity for business, for the development, but not inside the country. It's just for the airline. This is to grow traffic, but for me, it's a fake development of the country. It's just to cross the country, but not investing inside. But it also is an opportunity to grow. So we have these new hubs coming, which is very important for Africa. Also, what is seen, the low-cost carrier, which is not very developed in Africa. And this is due to very sharp regulation. But if low-cost carrier will develop, for me, it's a good opportunity to grow traffic. And maybe with these new airlines, it can grow very fast. And the other side, cargo will be the future of Africa. You know, now developing cargo, you know, Africa is a continent of resources, so we export most of our resources. But in the other side, cargo is not very good. So now, with emerging cargo airlines, this will constitute a very, very big opportunity for the development of air traffic in Africa, facilitated in the other side by the free trade project from the African Union.
Okay, so if you were to look at the infrastructure that we have, particularly airport infrastructure that we have at the various airports across Africa, would you say, from the perspective of ACI Africa, that we are actually using this infrastructure optimally?
No. No, in fact, very few airports are optimized for that. Most of the other are not using their capacity. You should know, when you build a runway of 3,000 meters, it can accommodate most of the airplanes. The terminal is, when you build a terminal, it starts off about 200,000 to 500,000. The problem, if you have one flight a day or 10 flights a day, it's the same if they are optimized for the timeline. You understand what I mean? So one flight or 10 flights a day, if you have one flight per hour, it's the same capacity, but it's 10 times more traffic, because when you use the infrastructure one time or 10 times, it's the same infrastructure when it's well used. So starting from this point, most of the airports have more capacity because they are very small and there is no traffic. Just to give you a number, we have about 700 airports in Africa. Most of them, 90% of them, are not efficient. So they have capacity, they have runways, they have everything, but there is no traffic, which means that they are not efficient financially and they lose money. So for me, there is overcapacity. Apart from these airports where there is a lot of traffic, like Cairo, like Nairobi, like in Nigeria, Lagos. Apart these, most of the airports in Africa are overcapacity, have a lot of capacity, but there is no traffic. You understand what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. So in that situation, but in some of those countries where we have idle airports, we still have decisions being made to build either newer airports or modern airports, or to build a second airport.
Yeah.
How can we discourage?
Yes. In fact, when we come back to master plan, in fact, if you don't respect your master plan, in fact, the master plan, when you build an airport, you build inside and outside. What does this mean? You build the terminal inside the runway, and outside you should protect your area. Protect all the airport from outside, from the city to come. But what happened is most of these airports are built 20, 30, or 40 years ago, but never been protected from outside. So the city comes to the airport and struggle it. And so they cannot progress. So they put the limit, and this airport becomes danger for the air traffic. I made a lot of visits in airports where the city is invading the airport, is coming inside the airport. And these airports, either there is capacity, but become very critical and not safe. This is one side. So this is why some airports, either there is capacity, but that is not good for the operation, looking at the safety issue. The second is about just to create new airport for other business. And this is very particular in Africa. Sometimes we see that there is a big and nice airport, but we build another nearby. And this is the case for Angola, for example, where we have two big airports that should work together. And we don't know how to manage it both. The same in Dakar in Senegal. We have two airports. So one is old, but invaded by the city, congested, but it still works. And the other side, we create another. And now the question is how to operate two. Should we close an airport? For me, closing an airport is a waste of money. For Europe, for example, for a developed country, we never close an airport. We add others to complete. For example, we have Heathrow and Gatwick. We have in Paris, we have Charles de Gaulle, and we have the other one, I forget his name. So we complete each other. So in the end, we have a total capacity of the city. But in Africa, we close and we lose money in this way of thinking. And for me, when you have a runway, you have a taxiway, and you have car park, a plane parking, you have 90% of the investment. Why should we build it again when it's there? So for me, it's controlling the progress of the master plan. This is one. And also for non-transparent issue for some other country, what they build overcapacity and a lot of money to waste for nothing.
So for those airports, you mentioned a few of them who might have problems with overcapacity issues. So for those ones which probably might be congested and needing expansion. Now, in your view, how do you think that expansion should be gone about? Do we still go by our traditional system of government bring in the money, government build the infrastructure, the airport company manages? Or do we bring in external foreign private capital for infrastructure development?
Yeah. And here it's a very nice question. It's a very good question. And it's not a size fitting all. Each country and each airport is a case on itself. It depends on the needs. If the government needs money, or if the government needs know-how, or if the government needs something very special. We can take some cases. So if the airport is big, there is a lot of traffic, and the government didn't have any money. So bringing money or investment from the private sector is very good. That will increase the quality of service and so on. And it's very fast engagement, and the result is there in very few time. In the other case, when the government have no money and have know-how, nothing, and we stuck. So we have some cases in Eastern Africa when the project of expansion now remain for more than 12 years, but nothing happened, and the quality of service is going down, congestion, very bad image of the airport, but there is no partnership. The government want to do it itself, but they have no tools, no money to do it. And this is also another case. But for me, the worst case is when the traffic is very low and the airport is very old, and we need to refurbish or to renew or to make a new airport. And this is the case of about 80% of airports in Africa, where the traffic is very low. So just to give you an overview, when the traffic is under 1 million passengers a year, that means that the airport is not financially efficient. So we cannot make this airport efficient financially, and the government should support this airport. And this is the 80% of the airports in Africa. And in this case, when the founder or the private sector comes, they say that it's not efficient. Why should we invest and develop this infrastructure when we cannot recover our money? And this is a big discussion. And this is the case of most of airports in Africa, where to be certified, we should refurbish the runway, for example, to be certified and to meet the requirement of the ICAO. The problem that the government didn't have money. And if they ask the loan or the founding agency, the bank or something, they said, no, we cannot give you money because you are not efficient. And we are sure that we will not recover our investment. Most of the airport in Africa. So if they succeed to have loans, the benefit or the loan will be very, very high cost. It's not the usual one. It will be very risky and very high cost. And this is one of the big challenges of African airports.
But this then means is actually developing these airports and maintaining them to the required safety and operational standards is a big challenge and a financial drain to the countries involved. And these are over 80% of the airports you're talking about with about 1 million or less passengers. This can be a very serious thing. So, I mean, it's difficult to attract private capital because the returns are not attractive enough. And then at the same time, also, the government might not have the resources to continue to support this. So how do we balance the issue of the safety concerns, ensuring the operationalization of those airports without compromising some certain standards?
Yeah, in fact, if I give you some numbers, you will understand by yourself. You know that the safety record in Africa is the worst in the world. We are 4 times worse of the average of the world. And this is an indicator to show the situation. The number of accidents, the ICAO record on certification. For now, it's about 30 to 40% of airports, international airports, are certified instead of 100%. And this is show the situation, the dilemma, because maintaining an airport is very high cost. Maintaining the runway, the taxiway, the park and terminal, it's very high cost. And when there is no traffic, there is no money. And who will support this? Mainly it's the government, but they say sometimes the priority of the government is not in the airport. And here we see some solution, not some cases where some investor comes to support, but what is the reality of this is not to support the airport itself, to use the airport as a door for other projects. For example, an investor or a concessionaire can come to support the airport, to refurbish or to renew the airport, but on the other side have other projects aside of the airport, like to build a new highway or to build hotels and so on. So the airport is just the entrance of the big project of the country, bringing, and this is, we can see in some cases in Senegal, in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in Mauritania. So the airport is the open door for a big investment, including airports, civil infrastructure, hotels, tourism, and everything. So it will be a big pack with an investor, and part of it will be the airport. So it's a solution to save the airport and to make it more safe and secure. You understand what I mean? It's a big pack where the investor invest in the airport, but also in other projects in the country.
But that is quite very, very interesting indeed. And before we continue, let me remind our viewers and our listeners that You have the opportunity to participate in this discussion. So please let your questions or comments come in through the Q&A tab or the chat box, and I will be reviewing them shortly. So far, I've got quite a number of questions, interesting questions coming in, and send more questions, and then we will take them up very shortly. So, but before that, before I get to the questions, just now that we have these 80% of these airports that are literally not viable, let me put it that way, plainly. They cannot stand on their own. They cannot generate enough revenue to cover the airports. Now, what should we do to ensure, because the countries in which these airports are based also still need the connectivity. Now, what is the game plan to support these airports to continue to provide the level of service and connectivity that is required?
Yeah. In fact, just to tell you how it works in most of the country in Africa. So, for example, if we go to Ghana or to Nigeria, there is one operator designated by the government, for example, FAN in Nigeria or Airport Authority in Ghana. But these operators didn't manage only one airport. They have a network of airports. One of the airports are the main airport, which is a bit efficient financially. So the capital, airport of the capital should be most of the time financially efficient, so they can get some benefit. So this main airport will subsidize, will support all the network. And this is the case of most of the countries in Africa. So we have one operator that manages a network of all these small airports. And by doing this, they can support each other. Otherwise, sometimes the investor asks only for the capital, the airport of the capital or the main airport, which is financially efficient and want to manage it to invest. But by doing this, we will kill all the other small airports because the network is broken and small airports remain alone with no support. And this is the case in some country where the government decide to make concession of the main airports, and in the other side, most of the small ones were becomes risky, didn't have budget to operate, and so on. And in the end, maybe they will be closed. And this is a case of some countries. So for me, the network management system of airports should remain because they support each other. And the main management company can manage and distribute the benefit from the main airport, one or two, to the small one. And in the end, we have secondary airport that can match the requirement of the ICAO and also be safely efficient and securely efficient. Otherwise, when we put them together with no resources, the government should support them. And most of the time, the government have more other priority than the small airports.
Yeah, and indeed, that is true. In oftentimes, the government itself, which is supposed to support the airlines, actually also needs support.
Yes.
So you can have someone who was a government needing support now having to support an entity, and oftentimes they don't consider those entities as priorities. But let's go to our participants and their views so that we can look at those ones, and then we come back to our discussion. So I see Adekinyi is asking about falling debris from outer space. Adekinyi, I think this is a bit probably not very related to what we're discussing today. Even though it's an emergency to deal with the falling debris from outer space. Recently, we heard about Elon Musk satellite debris that were coming down and the impact of all that. but we just wanted to limit our discussion. So if you don't mind, let me skip that question and go to your next question, Adikinyi. Your next question, which is very appropriate, says, are there regional infrastructure plans to meet net zero target by 2050?
Yes.
So, Ali, what do you think? Are there plans, particularly with regards to airport infrastructure? What are we doing to ensure that we contribute as airports towards net zero by 2050?
So this is, in fact, for us, it's a requirement that we engage all our members for net zero by 2050. But in the other side, it's an engagement of the government and the airport and the government. So ACI advise, lead, but, and we have a plan on that. We have the carbon accreditation, we have the ESG program, we have the academy, sustainable academy. We have a lot of tools to help airports. But in the end, it remains a government decision and a government strategy. For example, in Europe, it's regulation now for airports by the European Union to engage in the sustainable aviation, the SAF, and also for net zero by 2035 or 2050 for all the airports. In Africa, very, very few of government engage themselves in this way. So it needs regulation, regulation for the countries. If there is no regulation, it remains like the SATM or like the open sky. Everyone have the willing, but no one implement. So yeah. For me, it's we have all the tools, we do everything. We can help anyone who want to join this. But if there is no willing, no real engagement by the government of the country, it remains a wish in the list.
Okay, that's so true. I mean, we need regulations, and when we talk about the ensuring that we are operations or that the globe, the world is environmentally sustainable, it's not just with regards to aviation sector, it's everywhere, and that is why comprehensive regulations by our states will help all sectors, including aviation, to actually take the rightful measures in their operations to ensure we are environmentally sustainable. Yes. Our next question is from Ed Milson, and Ed Milson is saying, as Africa's aviation sector continues to grow, what are the key strategies being implemented to ensure the integration of airport infrastructure with modern air navigation services and regional air traffic management systems to improve safety, efficiency, and interoperability across borders?
I come back also and to say that it's also the country and the engagement and the strategy of each country. So what we've seen is there is some country that engage themselves to modernize the infrastructure, the integration, mainly with the satellite navigation, with this is in higher level, but internally to go for the certification of airports, which is a big engagement, to maintain this certification, because certification, it's program, it's forever. So it's not one shot. You should renew it each 3 years, and it's an engagement. So this is, and in the other side with other program like quality of service, like the engagement for the digitalization of the process of passenger and so on. So it's a program on itself. So some airports engage themselves, but most of the other are very slow engaging that, which is the case of most of airports. For me, what we see in that the airport that have a lot of traffic, a lot of money, engage themselves and progress and develop. The other one who's lacking traffic is also lacking engagement, and the gaps become more and more big. You understand what I mean? So
yes.
Now, maybe in Africa, we will have 2 or 3 categories of airports. The ones who is very developed, engaged with digitalization, with quality of service, with carbon zero, and so on. And this are going very fast. On the other side, we've seen that the small ones have nothing, no resources, no infrastructure, no certification, and no engagement in the development process. And now the gaps is growing. And I don't know how to solve that if there is no engagement by the country, because all this needs a lot of resources. All this engagement needs a lot of resources. And sometimes these is not the priority of the government.
Exactly. Now related to resources, Edmilson further asked, given the challenges many airports face in meeting ICAO standards, what specific initiatives is ACI providing to help them achieve certification?
Yeah, we have developed a lot of tools from 2010, 2011. We create first the APEX program. The APEX program, as you know, is to help airports to know their gaps through a peer review. And this is a joint program with the ICAO, the ICAO, the Civil Aviation in Montreal. So with that, we made most of the airports. We visit most of the airports in Africa. We made approximately 70 audit in airports, and it helps a lot airports to recover and to know their gaps and to certify. But we've seen that this is not enough. So now we create specifically for Africa, because APEX is a worldwide program and everyone can use it. But now, specifically in Africa, we create the African Airport Development Program. And inside this program, there is the assistance for certification, which include the training, the audit or the peer review, the assistance, and the accompaniment. So now ACI can, if there is the willing and the engagement of any airports, can accompany the airport from zero till the certification through a very long process to accompany them step by step. First, by making the review to know the gaps and to come back with a program from the actual situation to the certification, including everything, the training, as I said, the helping, writing the procedure, with also accompaniment with the studies, specifics, studies, and so on. So it's a very, very comprehensive program, and now we have a lot of success in this program.
Okay, great. Now, similarly, in that vein, Abdi Karim wants to know, how can African airports leverage digital transformation to enhance passenger experience and operational efficiency?
In fact, it's only engagement. If the airport engages himself to progress, to develop, all the tools are available. Everything is available. Just engage yourself. Say that I want to change. I have some resources, and everything is available. And we've seen, for example, in Ghana, for example, I remember when they refurbished the terminal and expand the terminal. It's really very, very good because they use a lot of digital transformation. They use a lot of things. And this is very easy. It didn't take too much time, but it needs the engagement of the airport and behind this, the government. Because in the digitalization, there is not only the process of passenger, there is the visa also, the visa process, the reservation, booking system, and so on. All, it's a big pack. So if you engage yourself, you have all the tools available. And we can help, ACI can help on these.
Yes. Our final question here, is ACI assisting African governments in any way to ensure successful privatization of airports? This is by Ed Milson again.
In fact, we deal with our members mainly with airports, but you know that behind airports there is government, because most of the airports are owned by the government. It's company owned by governments. So what I can say that we assist, we advise. It's not, as I said, it's not a size shaping all. It's airports, it's government, is the case on itself, and it depends on the needs. But we have developed a lot of tools, a lot of document on privatization and on concessions. And anyone who want to be advised, we can help. We help a lot of our members to achieve, to progress on this. And the door is open for everyone to come and to be advised. We didn't care, but it should come from the airport, and we can advise the airport, and behind this, the government.
Okay, great. There's one more question, but I'll come back to that towards our closing. For now, let me ask this. We talked about these airports that do not have the resources to be able to support themselves going forward. Is there a role in airport infrastructure development for the continental financial institutions, such as the African Development Bank and the AFRAA Bank?
Sure. In fact, most of the investments comes from these founding agencies. In fact, these agencies didn't deal with private company. They deal mainly with government. And in a lot of cases, when the government need resources to develop the infrastructure, they goes to these institutions. So, but these institutions, the other side, needs to secure their investment and to reduce the risk. And this is part of the ACI role, is to deal with this and to help this institution to reduce the risk. For example, to say by doing an apex review in an airport, we can tell this finding agency what's the risk behind this concession. If the airport is safe enough, if the project needs to be expanded to some area, for example, the refurbishment of the taxiway or the runway, so that they engage. For example, the government needs only to develop the terminal, but we know that the runway is not good. So it's very risky. So this agency through ACI can be advised, can be support, and in the other side, we advise our members about that. So just to know that most of the investment in government-owned company comes from this institution, mainly the African Development Bank and AFRAA Bank, and also the World Bank. Yeah. And we work with them. We work a lot with them.
Yeah. Now, on capacity building, I know we're doing all of this, but we need the human capital to be able to actually support the growth and the operations and the activities around our airport. So we're building all this infrastructure. The traffic is growing. Do we really have the requisite expertise to efficiently run and manage our airport infrastructure?
Very good question. In fact, when we made this apex reviews and airport certification assistance program, we note a very, very big lack of expertise. This is one. And when the expertise is there, we have another phenomena which is called the what's the brain? Oh, how to say it in English? When you lose your brain, you lose your skilled people. Drain brain or brain drain. Yes. So when there is some expertise, we lose them very fast because of the salaries of the situation, and these people didn't remain in their position. So starting from that, we built a very, very big program in ACI, which is the African Airport Development Program. And the aim of this program is to build capacity. Just to tell you, from 2017, Today, we train something like 300 or 4,000 people.
Yeah.
Most of them for free, because we trust trust that the pillar of the development is human.
Okay.
The pillar of African development is this expert that remain and that manage the airport. So starting from that, you should know that ACI is a not benefit organization. So all the benefit we get, we bring them back mainly on scholarships, training, and so on. This is one. The second is which is very, very important, is the language and the kind of training we made. Yeah. We understand that Africa speaks a lot of language, but the most efficient language is the language spoken by the people that works in the airport. So that's why our catalog is French, English, Arabic, Portuguese. Sometimes we made local language, but we should speak the language and deliver our courses with the language understood by the people that have these courses, and also to be on site in job training. All these courses, virtual and so on, is not very efficient. So we shape our program on these objectives, and that's why we deliver a lot of training, and we participate in the development of the industry in Africa.
Interesting note. So now let me go to our comment section, and I've seen that some of our guests and listeners have posted some questions there. Let's see if we can review some of them very quickly before we round up. Now, the one question is from Lubin Chaco. Lubin says, "What is the status of air cargo infrastructure in Africa?" And Ali, you will recall that during the COVID, Africa really went through very serious challenges because we lacked storage facilities for most of the vaccines that were coming in. And has that situation improved, basically?
Yes. Yes, we have seen that in Kenya, for example. We've seen in South Africa, now in Egypt, they are building a huge cargo terminal. As I said in the beginning, this is one of the pillars of the future development of the aviation in Africa. Cargo should become one of the pillars because Africa export the resources, but they didn't have the vector, the engine, the vector to transport all these products outside Africa. And this is, for me, is something very, very important to develop. So we start. It's not enough, I know, because we used mainly passenger aircraft to transport cargo, which is not enough. We should develop dedicated plane, dedicated cargo company, and dedicated infrastructure. It's progressing, and hope that it will continue.
Okay, now let me go back to a question that I had suspended earlier on, and this one is from Aaron Monetsi. He says, "I'm aware that the external battle between airports and airlines give Ali sleepless nights." I'm not too sure what these external battles are, but the question is, are there any ways both parties, that is airlines and airports, can come together to an amicable middle ground for the benefit of aviation on the continent? Briefly. We're almost
in fact, thank you, Aaron, for this question. Thank you for your spirit of good. In fact, for me, it's communication and misunderstanding, and also to defend the benefit of members. I defend my airport member, IATA and Airline Association defend their members. But for us, the main objective is to develop traffic, and we are agreed together to work together. So for me, it's mainly this taxes and charges, which is in Africa very specific. It's not the case outside Africa, but in Africa, looking what we said before about this lack of resources, non-efficient airports, and the need of money to support. That's why a lot of countries and a lot of government impose a lot of taxes. Sometimes it's not related to the traffic, to airport. It's something that government imagine and ask to be paid by airline, because something is very personal. in Africa, it seems that air transport is a luxury business. It's not accessible for everyone. And that's why the government imposed a lot of taxes for aviation, because for them, aviation is not, it should not be accessible to everyone. But for me, it should be the opposite. Air traffic and air transport should be accessible as any way of transport, as the train, as the car, as the buses. There should be airports and airline. But if we change this, taxes will decrease. And for me, there is a common problem with the government.
Okay.
Recognize that airport needs taxes. And we know that sometimes it's more and over. And this is coming not from airports, it's coming from government, and we should fight together to decrease this charges, which is not fair sometimes.
Thank you. Now, finally, whilst you conclude, there's a question from my good friend, Papa Atoman, and he is asking, what are the main challenges facing African airport operators? So whilst you take that question, you add it now to your final message, your key message to the industry. So you tell us what the key challenges facing African airports are, and then what your takeaway message would be for your audience.
Yeah, in fact, as I said, the operators are suffering lack of traffic, and this is common for most of Africa. My question is, why all this? Why we are lacking traffic in Africa compared to the world? If we look Latin America, Eastern Asia, and so on, so they resolve their problem. And for me, the main problem is the mentality, the understanding of the industry, and also the attraction of the destination. So for the future, for me, every government should understand the value of air transport. And we see some cases where air transport developed the whole economy of a country, like in Emirates, for example, where by using Emirates Airlines, developed the whole industry and the whole economy of the country, of the countries. So aviation is very, very important. But in the other side, if there is no strategy behind, if there is no vision, there is nothing can happen. For me, Africa continent is the continent of the future. We have everything. We have resources. We have climate. We have very nice tourist destination. We have youth. We have everything. But what is missing is a vision, a strategy where aviation should be part of the chain, where aviation should be a tool of the development. Aviation should be understood as something accessible for everyone, not reserved for the elite. Aviation should be very simple, very useful, and very accessible. And with that, government can build business attraction by changing the law, create tourism attraction, and so on, and ameliorate the destination. And with that, traffic automatically will come. This is my message.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. On that very laudable note, Africa is a continent that is endowed with resources. We have everything. What we lack is the vision to actually take our people with us to the next level. Aviation must be for everyone and not just for a few selected ones. And we should make that a possibility in 2025 and beyond. On that note, I would want to thank you, Ali, very sincerely for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts with us on aviation infrastructure development on the continent. Thank you also to my guests for actively participating in, and for all who asked questions. Thank you very much for your active contributions, all who made comments. We really appreciate your continued support and active engagement. Let us do this again next month. Until then, I wish you all the best. Enjoy the rest of the week and stay blessed. Bye-bye for now. Bye.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the all participants, and see you in Arusha in 3 months. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.